really fun topic for today, and that is about the lonely journey of IT leadership. But before we get started, if you are new to the IT Leadership Lab, welcome in. This is a community that is dedicated to IT leaders. It's a place for you to share content, learn from your peers, build community, and all of the things that IT leaders need to have. We also have bi monthly webinars just like this one, where we discuss various IT leadership topics. And then we actually bring on leaders within the space that can share their expertise, because a lot of this is learned on the job. There's not really a great way to learn all of these skills. And like we're going to talk about today, it can be a very isolating journey as well. So we created the IT Leadership Lab in hopes that we can kind of help y'all navigate the world of IT leadership and connect with each other. So, today we are going to be talking about the lonely journey of IT leadership. I think that IT leaders are expected to have all of the answers, and it can kind of be a uniquely isolating role in that way. You have to connect with a bunch of different teams throughout the organization, and it can kind of lead to loneliness as an IT leader. You feel like you don't have anybody to talk to. And then not only that, you are someone that probably started off as an individual contributor, you excelled in that role, and you were promoted to leadership and didn't really have any training to go along with it. So this can definitely make people feel like they're having to learn a whole new world of, unique responsibilities that they have not experienced. So today we're hoping to talk a little bit about that struggle and then what you can actually do moving forward. But first and foremost, as always, we're going to introduce the speakers. They are all familiar faces, but just in case you are new, I'm going to have everybody go around and introduce themselves. So Tim, if you want to start with kind of your job title and then what you've been doing in IT.
Sure. So I'm Tim Lanning, the VP of IT for SJRC Texas. We're a nonprofit that does child welfare services with the state of Texas. In my tenure here, we've grown from 75 people to 718 is the number now. I'm not keeping track, but just a lot of growth. And in 2024 was given the reins, if you will, of the entire IT department and asked to make it what it needed to be. I would definitely say when Brittany asked people to be on this panel for this topic, I said, hello, it's me. Number one, big Lord of the Rings fan. Number two, I've been on my own lonely journey. So hopefully bits and pieces of my story can help either help people cope or do things differently in a way that helps them. So that's just been my journey, is trying to figure all this out myself, self-taught, exactly like what Brittany mentioned. So again, hopefully I can be of assistance.
Well, I appreciate you being on as always, and I'm sure you will be of plenty of assistance. Nate, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Nate Payne. Currently, natepayne.com, if you want to find me online. Started in IT in 1996, and as I told the story, upgrading hard drives and RAM for a law firm with about 700 employees. Loved it. And from that point, I was hooked, kept moving up the ranks. And again, as Brittany described, an individual contributor, eventually moved into leadership positions and realized that, yes, we are not necessarily prepared. What makes you a great technician doesn't necessarily make you a great leader. And a lot of the leadership advice that we see is helpful, but there's something unique about leading an IT organization, which I think contributes to the loneliness in some ways. And so my whole mission journey, if you will, is to help IT leaders who sort of were those individual contributors gain the skills, the confidence, sort of a system that they can use to become better leaders within IT and get the respect. I think that a lot of times we don't get because people don't understand just how much pressure it is to lead the IT organization. So that's my journey.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that there's a lot of responsibilities that IT leaders have that just there's nobody else in the company that quite has the same unique set of responsibilities that kind of touches so many different departments. Which is ironic that it can be really isolating when you do have to talk to all of these different departments because no one quite understands that. Yeah, Brian, do you want to introduce yourself as well?
All right. Well, I'm Brian Walters. I'm with Pinnacle Structures in Cabot, Arkansas. I've been here about 15 and a half years, 13 of that as a solo IT shop. Before that, I spent a lot of time in the corporate world. I worked for Alltel Communications and then the state of Arkansas through various agencies, and I still count that as corporate because that's pretty much how they run business there. And then one day, I found a job opening here in my hometown for an IT director, and it was a little scary applying for it, but got here and walked into the server room, and there was the one single server sitting on a TV tray, ready to serve this whole company. And then my office was buried within that room. So it was already a lonely experience walking in because they buried the IT guy. Instead of in the basement, it was actually in the attic this time. But I've been here 15 years, and I've built this place from the ground up, from that one single server on a TV tray to just a broad ubiquity network and virtual server network. And without IT, they can't work. So I take pride in keeping this place up, even though that's a very lonely thing to be responsible for. But I've led the IT department here for those 15 years, and in the last couple of years, I've had the opportunity to lead a small team of one that joined me, and it's really helped me become more productive, and finally having somebody else on my team.
Yeah, yeah, you've been working there for a long time as in a kind of solo IT shop, so I bet that was nice to finally get somebody get somebody on your team.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I kind of wanted to start it off with just a question about when you first got into IT leadership. What surprised you the most about how isolated it could feel? And what were the things that kind of made it feel so isolating in that?
I'll go ahead and jump in on that. When I first walked in, it kind of reminded me of the scene from Charlie Brown Christmas Special when he opened up his mailbox, hello in there, and hear an echo. I've always heard that echo here when I first started working here the first couple of months. It's like they gave me like a piece of paper. Okay, these are our system. This is what we do. Goodbye. Here you go. And it was quite lonely walking the right way. It's like, I don't understand this. I don't understand that. And there was nobody there to really help me understand. So I basically had to learn by watching and learn going out to the shop, seeing our machines and like that. And still to this day, I don't think anybody who even really gets hired here gets trained, because you come in and they expect you to start working right away. So that's kind of the environment here. But yeah, when I first walked in, I was taken back how lonely it was. And then I started appreciating some of my leadership at my corporate jobs, that we may be surrounded by people, but their position was probably pretty lonely at the time.
I agree with that. I mean, I am a fixer type person. So I come in and I am attracted to the systems and the organizations and the things that need fixing. And so this company was rolling off of a pretty disastrous MSP relationship, looking to bring everything internal. And I was handed the reins and just here, nobody understood what IT was. I was the first real IT hire here ever. And this company's been here for 40 years. So a lot of what is happening. And then just, there's nobody that understands this particular struggle here. I report directly to a C-suite executive who is not technically, technologically minded. And so I don't have that. And there's no bitterness on my part. That's when we talk about this lonely journey, you're going to get a theme from Tim of the only way out is through. You have to find your ways. Otherwise, you're just going to drown in the bitterness and the misery of it. You've got to find ways to cope, and they can be healthy coping, not just coping for the sake of coping. But definitely would echo exactly what Brian said. It was just this kind of slap in the face of, wow, it's on me, for better or for worse. I have to do this, and I don't necessarily have the support that I would want. So it was definitely enlightening.
Yes, my story is much the same. I was a fixer, and that really was my identity. Is part of what attracted me to IT in the first place. I like fixing things, and I like helping people. And so I got a chance to do both of those things. And the better you are at fixing, the more pats on the back, and then of course, the better you feel. What I didn't realize moving into leadership really was sort of three things. I didn't know what I didn't know. So I was all of a sudden asked questions that I didn't even know existed. Forget the answers. I didn't even know the questions were there. Okay. Then I had a group of people reporting to me who didn't really understand what was being asked of me. So some of the decisions they didn't quite understand from the business side. And then third, on the other side, I had, like Tim, again, you have C-suite executives who don't really understand IT. So again, the people above you don't get it. The people that report to you don't get it. And there's this whole field of unknown, like landmines that you don't know you're going to hit. So that, I think, contributes to the sense of loneliness. I'm in this thing by myself. But again, you can look at it in bitterness, but again, I like fixing things. So my approach is there has to be a way, there has to be a system, there has to be a tool or solution, some way to approach this that addresses all of these things in such a way that I don't feel that loneliness, and my team and the business stakeholders feel confident, and I can sort of now start anticipating the types of questions that are going to come my way. But again, it's a journey. So,
yeah. Do y'all feel like there is, and then I alluded to this at the beginning, do you feel like there is a unique pressure to have all of the answers as an IT leader? Do you think that there is this feeling that, oh, well, he manages IT, he must have all of the answers, he must know everything? Is that a unique pressure that's kind of like on IT leaders? And are there any examples of a time where you had to deal with something like that?
Yeah, well, there's an expectation, but I think some of it is maybe self-generated. So I don't know about everybody else, but I'm an older brother, like the eldest. So, just naturally growing up where I come from, I was the one everyone came to for answers. Why they thought I knew the answer, I have no clue. Okay, but somehow Nate would know the answer. And it's still like this, by the way, to this day. Okay, that never changed. They still ask me about things. It's like I have no clue about mortgages or legal stuff. I don't know why you're asking me. So yeah, and then I took that on, I think, as well. Some of it is you want to seem competent. You want people to feel confident that they made the right decision, putting you in this role. You want the people that report to you to also respect you, right? That I'm a coach, but I'm also a pretty good player at the same time. That was the hardest thing to let go of, is that I just can't throw the ball the way I used to. And making the transition to coach, that was pretty tough. But yeah, I think it's just a natural part of it, maybe different from other business units, right? So if it's in legal or HR or accounting, it's almost like it's okay for them to say, oh, that's a good question, let me go check. And nobody thinks anything about it. But in IT, it's almost like you need to be an encyclopedia, if anybody remembers what those are, and where you just have all of the answers. So I think it is unique in that sense.
Yeah. I had specific instances where I had a conversation with my boss right after she became my boss. Went out to lunch, and it was honestly just I think it was her kind of grilling me to try to make sure she had made the right decision in promoting me. Because I was the IT manager, and then kind of became VP over everything IT, and so she was really just trying to make sure that was her gut had been correct on that one, and I feel like I've paid that back. But it was rough. It was okay. What is your plan? 5 seconds after taking this role, what is your plan to steer out of the utter mess that we're in with MSP contract, all of this stuff that's been neglected? We don't have credentials to all the switches to be able to do anything with them, right? Just little dumpster fires here and there. How are you going to steer us out of this? And I told her, and this is the point. This is what I would say to anyone that's asking at any point. I was honest with her. You, even if, like what Nate said, and I'm not saying that he said this maliciously, but like you want to be seen as the person with all the answers. You want to be seen that, you can be trusted and all those things. All that is true. I was honest with her. And I said, ma'am, it's been about 5 minutes. I need you to give me 2 months to dig into everything. Our contract will be up in 6 months. We've got time. I need to familiarize myself with the things that just were not being addressed before. I need time to do that. And also I need 2 people right away so I can get them hired and get them here. Give me those 2 things and we'll be good. So pressing the gas, the brake pedal, I mentioned that in a previous webinar, but pressing the brake pedal on that one really helped because she was able to say, oh, okay, he's not bluffing. He knows his shortcomings. He knows when he doesn't have enough information. He's not just going to blindly say something. I answered a lot of the test correctly, I think, in that initial gut, because she didn't show her cards or anything. She just hit me with it. And thankfully, that was my honest gut reaction. And so I would say, be honest. Don't, say, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. But position it as what it is. You need to be able to dig into this. You need to be able to fix things. You got that fixer mindset. That's a time thing, especially if you have a CFO for your boss. You can just say, look, it takes time to do an audit, doesn't it? Shouldn't really do an audit in one day, huh? So you can start pressing those buttons, but yeah.
Yeah, my issue is sometimes I was almost too honest. Like if I would update them on a technical issue, I'd give them this whole long list of what I did and what I performed, what's yet to do, and they just want it working. And I learned that kind of the hard way. They don't want those long explanations. And not only am I responsible for everything here, but as Brittany and Tim knows before that, I'm responsible for the CEO's 2 local homes and then his beach house in Florida. And sometimes little favors for him. There was a church, a 120-year-old church that he wanted me to put in a media system in. And that church has been there 120 years. It's got wood floor. It's got an attic. It's awful. We had to get wiring in there. And I never could get the sound and the video to sync up. And for the life of me, couldn't figure it out. And it was taking me 10 days to get it done. And he didn't think I was good enough. He was thinking I was less than average in IT. And basically it ended up being ProPresenter for Windows. I had to fall back a version and bam, it fixed everything. But, at the time I did know what to do. I didn't know what to tell him. I was like, it's just not working. It's not in sync. It could be just, the way we got things wired in here. And, so I have a lot of moments like that, which, may lead to imposter syndrome, which is whole other topic itself,
Yeah, definitely. I know that's something that a lot of people struggle with, especially in IT and IT leadership, things like that. And it can be really tough because a lot of people are asking you all of these questions and you're kind of explicitly, expected to have all of the answers. How does that affect your ability to ask for help? Do you feel like as fixers, you have to fix it on your own? At least when you first started out, you might feel a little bit more at ease doing it now, but when you first started out, was there this feeling that you just kind of had to kind of had to deal with it on your own and not ask for help?
Yeah, early on, that's how it was. I've been here 15 years, so in that 15 year, we've seen technology just change completely. But back then, I felt like I was on my own. I felt like the only resources I had at that time was just call my friends who used to work in server support or certain development things I needed help with, and then the forums started getting better. Like places like Spiceworks and a couple other forums. That was helpful, and I started to get more help that way. And then I found out there were certain forums, if you don't phrase a question right, they delete the post, and I never went back to that website again. But yeah, I started building relationships online, and now that we have AI and we've got LinkedIn and we got all these forums, I feel like I'm just a moment away from help, and I'm never afraid to ask. I just if I don't know the answer, I'll go out there and get the answer, and I'm not afraid to give anybody else credit either, especially AI.
Yeah, I think it's easier to ask for help nowadays. 30 years ago, there weren't as many technologies, different solutions. So it was a little bit easier to sort of get your arms around what was going on, fewer choices, right? But now it's just way too many choices for you to know. Although I still believe at the bottom of it, the foundational level still works pretty much the same. But yeah, it's tough, especially making that transition initially, right? When again, your identity, the way that you feel valued is in fixing things. And now suddenly that's not where your value is. Fine. But I'm not necessarily ready yet to have all of the other answers to those questions. And so you tend to default back to where you feel comfortable. But if you can get past that little bridge, and I think Tim made a really good point around that in just setting the right expectation. Part of what happens with imposter syndrome, I believe, is these expectations that are unrealistic. And then we take on those expectations, and they're totally like against the way the world works naturally, right? So I make better decisions when I have better information, in theory, right? The quality of the knowledge should lead to a higher quality of decision. But if I just came in here on day 1 or 2 and you want me to start making decisions, how could I really do it? It's not a technical issue at that point, right? That's sort of like a life expectation issue. I don't have enough quality information or knowledge about the systems, the way the company works, what you prioritize. Forget all of the ones and the zeros. I just don't know how the systems and the dependencies and everything work. So I think part of it is just being able to separate what is technical from what is life itself, and as Tim did, just set a realistic expectation. It has nothing to do with my ability as a leader. In fact, I'm actually proving the quality of my leadership by sort of setting you straight, or at least setting a more correct expectation.
To piggyback off of that, in those 2 months, I didn't just sit there and, what do I do? I immediately set to work fixing the problem. So, I used that. I set that expectation exactly like, thank you, Nate, for pulling that point out. I mean, that's expectation management is such a big part of what we do. I think it's something that we really have to learn how to do. I think it's an underrated skill. But then we got to work. I got to work hiring. I got to work documenting things. I got to work on, Dan has some great stories in the chat of literally unplugging things and seeing who screams. That's fun. As weird as that sounds, that's fun to do a good old scream test. Sometimes you want to do it on a production server so bad. Like, I know what this will do. I just want to hear people scream. Anyway, that part of your brain gets suppressed though, because that's not healthy. But just you use your time wisely and you stay focused on what's important. And Brian mentioned a good point too. I mean, you ask people that you ask colleagues, you go ask the dumb questions. And the one thing I wanted to say is that you have a lot of runway to do that when it's your first little bit in the fire, I think you do have that runway to be like, yes, I know this is a stupid question. Bear with me. I've been here about 5 minutes. If it's been 5, 10, 15 years and you're still asking the same kind of stupid question, different story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that you highlighted that Dan had some fun stories, and I wanted to read one of his messages. It said, "My current role, I started as a team lead tier 3. I was supposed to have a peer. My peer left a month into the job. I ended up going from a team of 2 escalating to me to a team of 10. Many asking me what we should do to move forward when I'm still trying to understand the environment. I felt very alone through that process. It's trial by fire. I'm thankful for it testing me and letting me learn the environment rather than just part of the environment, but imposter syndrome follows to this day." And I think that that's a really kind of indicative of IT leadership. Is not only are you learning all of this the technical intricacies of the environment, you're also now having to manage a team of 10, which that in itself is a lot. I remember I managed 8 people max at one point, and that was unsustainable. So, yeah, and I was already doing a job that I knew how to do, and I knew what was going on, and yeah, it can be very overwhelming. Um, and to that point, are there things that you feel like you are holding that you just can't share with your team? I'm sure there's a lot, especially, budget or future planning, things like that. Things that either they don't need to know or you don't want them to know right now. Are there those kinds of things that you have held back from your team, and how has that affected you?
Yeah, I think early on, I took that approach, and you see this a lot when I read forums. People say, a good leader, they protect their team, they defend their team. And there's a certain amount of truth to that. I'm always concerned, though, about the environment in which you find yourself, if defense and protection are the words that come to mind when you think about leadership. That's just me. Um, I think there's an assumption we make sometimes. We assume that because someone is in the C suite, they're a VP, that they're a good leader. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes the worst leaders I've ever worked with are sitting in those C chairs. Okay. So if you're comparing yourself to someone who's a poor leader and feeling imposter syndrome, don't. They're just a poor example. Again, their expectations. Like, stop comparing yourself. Right. So the reason that you're in this role as an IT leader, those things still hold. Okay, they still hold. Sometimes you're training and teaching them how to be a better leader. Without getting fired, of course. So it is a tightrope that you have to walk. But yeah, there are some things that you share with your team. I found that, especially things that impact them directly, how I arrived at decisions, that was the biggest difference maker, right? Because that's where the trust started coming from. When they understand the trade-offs that you're facing, not just being directed or told, but here's what I was facing. I could go 3 different ways, and based upon these factors, I chose this way. And when you're consistent with that and you share consistently those types of things, how you arrive at decisions, not only are you preparing them to to be a leader at some point in the future, but you're building a culture now of trust. So even when I disagree with your decision, I still trust you and I still respect you because I understand, yeah, he's pretty consistent in the way that he arrives at decisions. Sometimes I like him and sometimes I don't. So that would be my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, Brian, I'm curious about. Sorry, Tim.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
I'm curious about your experience because you just now have somebody like that is reporting to you. So you were a one person department for a very, very long time. Um, Do you kind of experience that still, even with one person versus no people on your team?
Yeah, very much. I still kind of feel like a solo shop at times. I mean, Dan's been very helpful, but what I've had to learn with him is that he's really exuberant. He's real, I don't want to say the right term for it. He's a gunslinger, okay, and he likes to let's just try it. Let's get this work. I've had to kind of reel him back in sometimes because I was like, that's just not. It may seem like this is our environment because we're a fast-paced environment. I mean, we get buildings sold, we get them delivered. I mean, quickly as possible. But in IT, we can't do that. We can't just move to things real fast. And with all respect to him, his answer to everything has been, "Let's move to Mac, let's move to Linux," and it's just we can't do that on everything. But so yeah, there are times where I kind of need to bring him in on something that management says is coming, and I've just kind of learned to kind of keep him at bay sometimes too, because a lot of times there's some HR issues, that I have to handle as well. And if there's anything about him, I've got to kind of keep to myself for a while. Um, but yeah, it's I mean, even though he's helped me a lot, I still feel like a solo shop, mainly because we're just the two IT blockheads, to use another Charlie Brown analogy. That's what sometimes they think, and we're constantly trying to make ourselves more visible in the right ways. And visibility has been a hard thing. I wrote on that a couple of weeks ago about visibility, and he's constantly coming to my office going, "They think we don't do anything up here, man." I said, "Well, yeah, they know we do. They just don't know how we work up here," and that's always been a big challenge too, and that's kind of made him feel lonely, in the sense that it kind of makes me feel lonely again. So. Um, to bring this back to the beginning, it's like IT, even with the second person, is still the most misunderstood department here at our workplace.
Brian just said so much there. That was just so good. I agree with you, Brittany. We're going to be clipping a lot of this. I bet you will. But just what really helps me determine what is useful to share, what isn't. It goes back to, and I'll give the analogy very briefly, but to continue on with the gunslinger motif, the Revolutionary War, the flintlock muskets, right? They had their powder horn at their belts, and that was it. When you ran out of powder, you were out. So you had a limited number of shots, and you could definitely be plonking tin cans off the fence over there, but the redcoats are coming. Should probably be pointing over there instead of over here. So what are you spending your powder on? That applies even here, because that powder also goes into, I am the filter. I'm getting all of the executive level information. It's coming to me because I'm the senior most technology leader here. I want to be maximally transparent, but I do have to have that filter of like, there are just things, Brian mentioned HR. There's things I just cannot say. There's initiatives in the works, like buying property or something, that like we should not be telling everybody about, that I have to bear by myself. And that's rough. So like, I have to go back to that same analogy of, okay, I could be telling people this. I could be getting the exact same feedback that Brian's getting of, hey, why don't we switch to Proton Mail for the entire organization? Great, we're 718 people. We could do that. We probably should do that. We're not gonna. We can't spend the powder on that. So, but being able to kind of tip your hand and show the why is a good use of that as well. Like, I want to inform decisions so that people understand why Tim's coming at them with this deliverable. Why? But I can't tell you everything that I know. So you do have to kind of keep that in balance. But I agree with what Nate said. If it's a matter of like, oh, you should defend and protect your people, I think there's like unrealistic expectations that people come at IT with that you need to definitely defend and protect from. But I also agree with Nate. If you feel like you're having to like, battle the Alamo, your department, with your colleagues at your VP level or your director level, you might have a deeper problem there. The Alamo didn't go so well for the defenders of the Alamo. I'll say that. I know. I live here.
And one thing I had to teach too, my colleague was, we're a $100 million business, $100 million a year business, but we're still a small company. we're still a small business, and we have a small office. You know, we have at least 100, over 100 guys that work in our shops, but in the office, we're kind of a small, close knit team. And you know, unfortunately, drama carries fast, words carry fast, and so basically, one thing I taught him, I said, if you have a software problem or if you have an issue that's causing somebody not to work, let me know so I can let management know. It doesn't matter how small, because if it gets filtered through the eyes of somebody else, it's going to look like we're not doing anything. It's like we don't know what we're doing, and that happens a lot in the shop when the foremans just come up behind us, just kind of stare at us while we're doing our work. And even though they don't understand IT, and if we explained it to them, they still don't understand it. I encouraged him. I said, "Hey, man, we're going to go research this. We'll be right back. You know, just keep that communication going, whether it's with the shop foreman or senior management. That way, it doesn't get filtered and misunderstood." And that's been probably one of the biggest challenges. I call it drama control, and I'm trying to teach him that, and it's made us more successful down the road.
Yeah, one of the things, to Brian's point, so believe it or not, early in my career, I was one of those gunslinger kind of people. And I had a really good mentor, thank goodness, during that time. Here's what he taught me. He would sit me down and say, okay, let's walk through this. I didn't realize, I don't even know if they had a term for it back then, but it would be, we call it second and third level consequence. So, all right, let's walk through it. Let's say we switch to Linux. What does that look like? And then watch it ripple through and the impact, right? And then to Tim's point, and then so what is the cost to do that, right? In time and dollars and so forth. And then what do I get out of it? Because this goes back to one of those realistic life things. Everything's a trade-off. And the question every day as a leader is, what am I trading my time and money and attention for? Did I make a good trade? I mean, at the end of the day, that's kind of what our job is. And so if we can communicate that to the people that report to us, it makes our job easier, I think, right? Because now we're all on the same page. But in the future, you're building a stronger leader, a person that you don't have to always step in. You can almost start trusting their decisions because you're giving them a way of making decisions, like this system, that you can trust them as well. And when you have that two-way trust, it's really a cool relationship. I was lucky. I had a mentor who was patient with me enough to do that. And it made all the difference in the world. And he and I did build a really trust-driven relationship.
Mm-hmm. That was actually one of my questions too. So it's a great segue into.
Oh, sorry.
You know, no. I was saying this is a great segue. This is perfect. You know, we've talked a lot about all of the negative side effects of being an IT leader. I think that there are some positive things though about building community. So I kind of wanted to shift into what people can actually do to feel a little bit less lonely. And one of those questions was about mentorship. And if you have had a mentor in your kind of in your career that helped you grow, helped you build skills, they didn't necessarily need to be a boss, but if there were any mentors that have kind of helped you grow, if you wanted to kind of talk a little bit about that experience and how you like made that relationship too.
I'll jump in here. I didn't really. I have kind of lived my life as a very it's up to me type person. So I didn't even really know that you could have a mentor when I first started in leadership. So the benefit of my boss, one of the many benefits of my boss, other than she's a very nice person and all the things that I'll say, like, that are very true.
She's standing right behind the computer right now.
She's over there, but that's beside the point. Don't worry about it. No, thank you. No, she saw that. She saw that about me. She knew that. And so she found a mentor for me. She said, look, one of the people on our board recently retired from IT. He's been doing it for 30 years. He was an executive VP at an oil and gas company. I think he knows what he's talking about. And he's very willing. He heard about this transition for you, and he's very willing to come alongside and meet you whenever you need, whatever you need. I'm like, we can do that. That'd be great. And truthfully, like we've wound down a little bit. He's really enjoying the retired life now, and not really, I think he feels like I'm a little more up and running, and so he doesn't necessarily, that relationship has kind of, we don't meet as often, but when we do meet, and especially when we were there before, he was teaching me a lot of things, a lot about how to communicate, a lot of the things that the IT Leadership Lab is also telling you, and I'm learning from here. But the big thing that he did for me was just a gut check. Yes, Tim, you're not insane, despite what everyone thinks. You are doing things the right way. You're in the right direction here. Here's a couple things that maybe you should do, maybe you should consider. But he served as a gut check, that this person that knew exactly what he was doing was saying, yeah, you're right. That is insane that they're doing over there. You're right. That meant way more to me than so many other ways that could have gone. And I'm grateful that he saw that that's really all I needed. So that definitely, if you don't have a mentor and you don't even know where to begin looking, just ask, hey, I need a mentor, right? Somebody will know somebody. If they're good, great. If they're not, you at least know what not to look for. So I definitely would encourage everyone to have a mentor of some kind.
Yeah, my last job, I answered to a CTO. We were basically over disaster recovery, backup. That's pretty much all we did at our last job. But it kept us busy. And one thing I learned from him was how to be appropriately stern with a vendor. When you need to be, without being totally, a jerk about it. Really, basically. And that's really helped me here. I try to be polite with everything I do, but you got to remember, you got to stick that one little sticking point. Hey, we got to get this done. We got to get back to work. And I learned a lot from him on that. I learned a lot from him about making purchasing decisions. And he's not too much older than me, but he's actually already retired, enjoying retirement life right now. And right before he left that job, he was doing speaking engagements, and I'm kind of following in his footsteps a little bit. So I really appreciate what I learned from him over time. Uh, Now, but still, where I'm at currently in my job, most of my friends and mentors are through the like Spiceworks forums, and they're always there to answer my question without making me feel insulted. And I love those relationships we've built, and every time I've gone back every year, it's just like family. So that's kind of my group of mentors now. But the mentor I just mentioned a while ago, we try to go to lunch about 3 times a year or so, and just stay in touch. And I get a little jealous that he's already retired, but I try to learn. I try to learn from him, and maybe I can reach that point here before long. So
Yes, much like Brian, about 15 years ago, I reported to a CFO, and even at my age, he's still my mentor to this day. I actually have a call with him when we're done here. We still talk, and he's retired, by the way. So I share that jealousy, Brian. I know what you mean. But what he gave me was a perspective, a non-IT perspective, and that's what I needed. So early on, I had it. It was the IT director was a mentor, and that's really what I needed at that time. But as you move into leadership, you're almost looking to learn what's on the other side, right? Like know thy enemy. Not that they're your enemy, but I need to understand what's on the other side of the fence, what's important to them. And so at that point in my career, that's what he really provided. And to this day, he still provides it. He still gives me that check. And being, a CFO, it's always about the money. And so even in my own business, he just keeps me in line. And it's such a really good relationship. Never thought when I walked in there that day that, 15 years later, he and I would still be almost kind of friends, in a way. So you're never too young to have a mentor. And I don't think you ever get too old. Just FYI, I'm not sure how old everyone is out there, but I don't think you ever outgrow the need or the benefit that you would get from having a mentor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I also really love what Dan said too. He said, I think many people who have mentored me would not call themselves mentors. They're the people
Right.
who believed in me and quietly kept my head above water while I was thrashing around in the water. Meanwhile, they told me I had this, I could do it. I've tried to do the same with many younger colleagues. And I think that's a really great point that you don't have to necessarily label someone as your mentor, even though they have mentored you, they have supported you. And I think that's really important to recognize too is, um, you know, you have been mentored by a big community of people, and in turn, you've also probably mentored others too. Um, and I wanted to ask about that kind of community. So, building, we talked about how to find your fellowship. How have you built a peer support network? What does that support network look like? And then what do you find helpful in those relationships?
I immediately formed a council in Rivendell. Sorry. Uh, yeah, had to. No. Um,
I won't be taking the ring. Nose goes.
okay. I'm going full Boromir. I needed to inject some Lord of the Rings in here. Anyway.
Yes, yes.
No, I found people in my life that may not do the exact same thing that I do, but they're in similar boats. Maybe they're audio visual, or maybe they're a network tech or something. And to be, entirely cards on the table, I mean, church was a great place for me to find these people. So, wherever you find your community, I think you can find people in that community that are, that are at least on the same, they have the same struggles in their ways. And I think if you're open about your struggles, people latch onto that, and people kind of gravitate to that. And the fixers among us definitely are like, ooh, fix. I would say that was the way that I found my collection, and it's not like a super large collection. I think the IT Leadership Lab. Shameless plug here for the platform we're on. Great job, Tim. This has been great for me because it's a bunch of leader. Like it was like a injection of good sound counsel. But kind of before that, I was still finding people, and it was one and two here and there. I'm never the type of person that I need 500,000 friends, although I'm grateful for everyone that would consider me such. But definitely, like I found my people. I found my fellowship, and then I found the IT Leadership Lab and found a whole other fellowship that's really cool as well. So y'all are amazing.
Yeah, I noticed when I started speaking at Spice World every year, what I would speak on wasn't so much the technology. It was about the people, the person. And, there was a lot of technology in my speeches, but when people come up to me later, oh man, that spoke to me. Man, that really spoke to me. I mean, I don't feel so alone anymore. So I started getting mentorship in that way. But I feel like I was mentoring them in that situation. They don't feel so lonely anymore. And so that's now kind of why now I kind of speak on just the experience of being an IT professional rather than technical part. Sure, I'll talk about technical things, but that's what's kind of led me to talk about mindfulness in IT because it's very important. You got to keep your sanity. I mean, you really do in this world. And when you're at a job where you do feel lonely, if you dwell on it too much, you're gonna go down. You're gonna get lost. You're gonna feel like everything is echoing every single day. So I just feel like now that I've built those relationships with people who can relate, I mean, it's like I can go, gosh, about 10, 15 times a week, I'm talking to different people through instant messaging or at least a text or a forum post, and we're staying in touch that way. But one thing I try to encourage is try to find somebody local that try to get in touch with them, go to dinner, go to lunches, because I really look forward to lunch with my former CTO, so I'm just trying to encourage you to build those relationships, whether they're virtual, online, or in person.
Yes, it's a lot easier now, especially online. I mean, the COVID thing and working from home sort of slowed up, I think, the community building and the in person because we used to have these weekly meetings where we gathered, and that went away for a couple of years, but sort of migrated offline. or online, I should say. And that was helpful. Community for me has changed. For a while, it was MSPs because that's the space I was in. I could tell you guys stories, but that's for another. Anyway, if you ever want to know how they really work, just ping me. I'll tell you. Uh, as a person who spent most of my career internal IT, some of it I was just offended that they looked at it that way. Made it hard to be in those rooms sometimes. But as time went on, what I realized is I needed a community of people. It can't, you want to help, right? But I want to help for a problem that really exists, not the problem that I think exists. So for me, the IT Leadership Lab, and if anybody saw my old website before I joined the IT Leadership Lab and they see mine now, almost everything on my website now comes from conversations we've had here. Like things in the chat, things people have said. I'm just repeating those words back because, well, I have a community of people who are expressing these ideas. These are their challenges. This is what they want fixed. So, I kind of get to be that fixer person again. And that's what's really cool for me. But you don't want to show up to fix the monitor, but really it was their mouse. So if you don't ask, if you're not in a place to receive that feedback in terms of what's going on, then you're probably going to be missing something there. So depending on where you are in your career, depending on what your aspirations are, um, that will help direct where you want or you find and build your community. But I agree with Brian. If you can do it in person, it makes all the difference in the world. I still, like one of my old mentors, he had this expression. He was a sales guy, right? So sales guys had like the best lines ever. And he would say, he would call it belly to belly. And it took me, I was like, what does he mean? And oh yes, okay, yes, in person. It's just a funnier way, I guess, to say it. But he had all of these things, aces in their places. I still use that. I don't know if you guys have heard of me, but that it comes from him. And when you're building a team, you don't put your quarterback on the offensive line, and you don't put one of your offensive linemen under the ball. I mean, it's just that kind of thing. So yes, community is very important, and it may change as you move through your career.
Mm-hmm. Belly to belly, I've never heard that.
Yes.
It's
well, yeah, I don't know if all of those would still fly, but he just meant like having a meal together, sitting across the table. But yeah,
yeah.
But he had tons of sayings like that.
That's really funny. And hey, I won't forget it.
Yeah,
definitely that one.
I haven't. It was like 20 years ago.
Yeah. So my last question is around what people can do now. So a practical step, maybe one practical step someone can take this week towards finding their fellowship, whether that's online or in person. Something like, basically, if y'all can give me an active step that people could take if they are struggling to find their fellowship right now.
Join something. I mean, if you're already here, you're on the IT Leadership Lab. If you're watching this, the recorded version of this, go to the website and join the IT Leadership Lab. Get into a community of people with like mind, like challenges, where you can find solutions. From kind of being the old person here, I wish I would have had something like this when I started. There was no online. We had TechNet. I don't know. Ping me in the chat if you remember TechNet, those discs that used to show up from Microsoft. Anyway, that was right. Sort of your support. So it's so much easier today to do that. I think Brian talked about this earlier. The different forums, reaching out to people, asking for help. Here's the cool thing about it. They want to help. It makes them feel good to help you. Right? These are the same people who got into IT because it makes them feel good to fix problems for people. That's all they want to do. It might be a technical problem, but in the leadership lab, it may be a leadership issue. Maybe it is a technical one, but it's not, you're not bothering people, right? So they want to be asked, they want to help, they want to feel a value. And so that would be my suggestion is to reach out to them. You are not bothering them. They want to hear from you.
Mhm. That
Yeah,
is a that is common struggle I have is being like, oh well, surely this is actually there. This is an inconvenience, and they're doing me a favor if I reach out. And it's like, you know, I definitely forget that some people just like to help, and I like to help. So it's like,
Mhm.
if someone were to ask me for something, my help on anything, I don't know anything, but I could certainly try. And yeah, I always forget that. So that's a great point. Sorry, Brian, what were you gonna say?
Oh, I'm just saying that, yeah, join. If you're not a membership of the Leadership Lab, just get in there and join. And what I'd like to do, start to do, is if I see a new member, I'm going to go out there and thank them for posting or thank them for joining. I do that quite a bit on Spiceworks. It says this person hasn't posted ever, or they haven't posted in 2 years. I try to just recognize that. Say, glad to have you back. Get in there and get involved, because there's some lively discussions that can happen, and just make you feel about your day and about your career, and not feel so lonely.
I will definitely echo that. We're 3 for 3 on shameless plugs for the Leadership Lab. Let's go.
I
This is
promise
great.
I'm not paying them to do this.
Yeah,
No, no.
Promise.
That tells you something, though, that like we're so willing to recommend this resource. I'm telling you, it's been such a benefit to me. Also, Brittany put it in the chat. Go to Spice World. I think all of us will be there on this, on the screen right now. So sorry, minor local celebrities here. But I would say, in addition to finding a community, 100%. It doesn't really matter whether you're in leadership for 5 seconds or 30 years. What I'm about to say, I think holds true. Please feel free to, pick apart every reason that's probably not true if it isn't. But don't be afraid to be honest and share your vulnerabilities with people. Pick somebody. Sometimes it's good, even if your boss does not know anything about your technical struggles. Sometimes it's good to take the technical out of it and say, I'm really struggling with X. And can I just vent for like 15 minutes? And then they see that you're struggling, and they'll probably want to do something about it, because they don't want to see their people struggling unless they're, a sadist, in which case, why are you working there? But just be honest. Find somebody, even if that's like your family, somebody that they're the person that always asks you to fix the printer at family reunions, right? Go to them and be like, did you know what I struggled with today? Did you know that I had to figure out DHCP for the 50th time? Did you really?
Yeah.
Pay them back a little bit, But anyway, just be honest about your vulnerabilities, right? I would say that has helped me so much. It's like what Dan's doing in the chat. Dan's being very vulnerable and honest right now, and I'm so grateful that he's doing it. Just struggling. Sometimes you do. You're human. Own it. The only way out is through sometimes.
And real quick, even though it's called Sysadmin Day, July 31st is the day they celebrate us all in this career. So look that up. Try to find a local celebration, or maybe at least on a forum, and get involved in that, because it's one day that actually finally honors IT.
I'll pop a link to that in case anybody is unfamiliar and you need to prompt the rest of your company to send you coffee and lunch. I also put in a link to Spice World, but I also put in the link to our IT conferences mega thread in case you do want to do like any in-person meetups. There are some conferences listed on there. But on top of that, you can also find like local peer groups. That's something that we're trying to work on, but like, getting connected with local IT IT professionals, IT leaders, that's also really helpful. So don't be afraid to jump into those. I think there are still like Spice Core meetups that are happening, so you can always look up on the Spiceworks community. There are Spice Core on there. You can kind of look it up based on your location. So there are options out there, whether you want to meet virtually or in person. So, all right, well, we are at time. So I really appreciate y'all being on here. As Tim said, you are not alone. There are so many people out there, so many that would love to connect. Even not even about work or tech too. All of us have lives outside of work, and we're not always talking about IT. And I think it's really important to recognize that we all have so many different interests too, and you can connect with people on that, and it makes it a lot easier too. If you connect with them on how much you love Lord of the Rings, it's probably easier to connect with them on help with budgeting. It definitely helps. So
the sword is an option for both. Just
yeah. That is true. That is true. I need to get a sword. But yeah, we'll be back in a couple of weeks when we'll be talking about planning for 2027, which is wild to say, but it's coming up faster than you would think. And you think about how long it takes you to get a response from somebody, you need to get started now. So yeah, we'll be back in a couple weeks talking about that. But in the meantime, really appreciate y'all jumping on today. Thanks for all the activity in the chat. I think there were some really, really great conversations happening there too. So thanks, Dan, for sharing all of your stories too. I think there were some really good ones in there. So I'll probably be pulling that out in the wrap up post. But yeah, I've already talked over time, so I will stop talking now. But thanks for joining today, and have a good rest of the day.
See ya. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Yes, find us all on LinkedIn. That's what Beth said. So yes, definitely LinkedIn.
100%. Bye, everybody.
Awesome. All right, bye y'all.